Hello everyone, I'm Pavel, and I would like to welcome you to the second Spotlight series of East Meets West. What is the Spotlight series? Well, the point is that we at East Meets West, we meet so many interesting persons and organizations throughout the years, and we want to share with you all of their great work. Despite the summer period, we got in touch with 3 organizations and recorded with them an interview. First, we will talk to Sarajevo Open Centre and Emina and Aida about their upcoming diversity certification program for companies in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Then we moved north to Berlin, Germany, and talked to Matthias, who is the project manager at Aidshilfe, Deutschland, and campaign #working positively. Finally, we moved to Lithuania and we'll talk to Jurga, representing the Lithuanian Diversity Charter. Now I can only wish you to enjoy our Spotlight series and welcome on the stage our first guest, Sarajevo Open Centre, Aida and Emina.
Yeah, so to give you a brief introduction on how we started with this. So LGBTI persons in Bosnia actually enjoy rather unfavorable social position and stigmatization, leading to a negative impact on the economic aspects of life, primarily employment, work, and career advancement. So when we were analyzing the data that we have collected through the research we did in 2017 on the everyday lives of LGBTI population here in Bosnia and Herzegovina, we actually came to a conclusion that more than half of the respondents actually hide their LGBTI identity from their co-workers, and actually that several of them have faced problems at work because of their identity. Also, another research that was done by the NDI in 2015 has shown that 36% of the LGBTI respondents have reported to have experienced some kind of discrimination in the workplace or in the employment. Whereas the 30% of the general population respondents have responded that they would actually have ceased all communication with their co-worker if they found out them to be of a different sexual orientation or gender identity. With this also, we have on our own example have experienced similar things when it comes to cooperation with different businesses here in Bosnia and Herzegovina, where we have actually faced several rejections by different businesses that we tried to establish a cooperation or to work with. So this was something that was a push for us to actually think through this whole idea to actually work with businesses and to see what is the actual situation when it comes to diversity and inclusion practices with companies working here in Bosnia and Herzegovina, particularly having in mind an extensive anti-discrimination legislation, which is mostly comparable to the EU standards and general framework, which means that we have established like good practices when it comes to a legislative framework. So this is something that we were actually taking into consideration when trying to figure out what would be the best way for us to actually work on this matter when it comes to inclusion of LGBTI persons in the employment in the companies here in Bosnia. So we were lucky enough to pair with Market Makers, which works here in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And we have actually talked to them and shared this data that we have and our concerns that we have when it comes to businesses here and actually the inclusion of LGBTI persons and their socioeconomic position they do have here in Bosnia and Herzegovina. So we have jointly conducted the research to actually have an insight into employee engagement practice and workplace diversity and equality. By examining the country's legislation and international legislation and actually the best practices on diversity and inclusion. So what we actually, as a result, got what we expected. So the solid body of legislation addressing anti-discrimination and equality in BiH actually resembles the EU law in many regards, but it's only partially effective. So while the Constitution and the legal systems provide extensive attention to diversity and group representation, it is largely restricted to members of 3 constituent people without including other minority and marginalized groups into the practices here. So another important finding that we got is actually there is a lack of awareness towards diversity management approach and understanding the benefits of a diverse workforce among business. So this was what we got when we did the research with the businesses here. So another thing we also did here in Sarajevo Open Centre, that we have actually got some new data fresh out of the oven in 2020, which is something we did during this whole COVID situation, but we have managed actually to do this field research to see what is actually the socioeconomic position of LGBTI persons here in Bosnia, but also to compare it to the general population to see how it actually works in terms of their employment, quality of education, and similar career advancement, and if it has any correlation to their identity or gender orientation. So what we got with the results in 2020 is that actually was the data that we weren't expecting, but it is an indicator for us that we are doing a good job, since the results are actually going in our favor, and we can see the change in the minds of people when it comes to the position of the LGBTI persons here and the human rights situation there and problems they are facing when it comes to exercising their rights. So some of the questions I'll try to translate live. So the first question would be, so do you believe that the LGBTI person find it more difficult to find employment here in Bosnia and Herzegovina? So most 53.8% of the general population said they do have face more difficulties to find employment, and 37.7 of them said that they do not know. So this actually points to the fact that they are still not familiarized enough with the human rights situation of the LGBTI person. This is something that needs to be worked even harder on, but this is a data for us to actually see that the minds of the general population have actually changed in terms of better understanding the situation and the problems the LGBTI community is facing here in Bosnia. So another questions were strictly related actually to the employment position. So we asked if they would have problems if they knew that their colleagues, or actually that they presumed that their colleague is an LGBTI person, would they have problems with that? 51.4 of them said no, they wouldn't have any problems. 14.7 of them said that they don't care about their identity, and 16.2 said that they do not know if they would have any difficulty with that. Somewhat similar percentage occurred when we asked them if they would have problems if they knew that their colleague they work with are actually members of the LGBTI community. Another question was related to the superior. So would you agree to work for a superior that you know is an LGBTI person? And 62.4 of them said yes, which is an extremely important and a solid data and solid ground for us to actually further advocate for this whole diversity and inclusion certification idea. Because when we had meetings with representatives of certain companies, most of the time they would actually use the excuse of saying like, no, I do support this whole idea, but we are afraid that it will somehow damage our business and similar to that. So this data will actually be of extreme use for us to actually work and build a campaign around it, which is also related to another question that we asked, which is would you agree to work for an employee who actually protects and promotes the rights of LGBTI persons? And 63.1 of them said yes, they would agree to work. So this is something that is, which will serve as a basis for us to actually build a whole campaign around this certification idea. So this is the data, and that was actually also recognized by the market makers, and this whole idea is actually something that we are working on together. So this new project that we will be working on for the next couple of months, that being sometime around 8 months that we will be working on, we will actually aim to introduce the diversity and inclusion process to the business community in Bosnia, which will serve as a starting point for the businesses to examine where do they stand in terms of diversity and what needs to be changed or improved in this regard, but also as an ending point and goal in reaching the optimal conditions for securing that diversity and inclusion practices are accommodated into their everyday work. Actually, this DIY certificate will verify that companies are inclusive, taking the time to foster belonging for those groups that are traditionally excluded from work, and deepen professional commitment, connect certification holders to create networks of companies actually supporting this whole inclusion idea, and as well as advance their professional journey through continuing education. So this is basically something that we will be working on in the next period of time, and we will undertake several steps actually in order to fulfill this goal, and which is an inclusion of different marginalized groups into the companies in Bosnia and Herzegovina. So basically the idea is to have to include not only the LGBTI group, but also Roma people, people with disabilities, and women. So this will be the 4 groups that will be covered within our work when it comes to the DIY certification process. So we will, for the first step, actually establish a network of NGOs, which will be a network of several eminent organizations and individuals with an excellent track records in advocacy and representation of women, Roma people, and people with disabilities, and such as a representative of the LGBTI group. So the next step will be actually to develop and sign MOUs with different stakeholders and partners to bring them on board to communicate all aspects of cooperation. So basically we'll be jointly, so us as a Sarajevo Open Centre, as a coordinating body in this case, and several different organizations will be working jointly on implementation of this project. So another thing that we will do is actually to create and launch an online platform, which will, aside from all the relevant information someone might get when it comes to DIY certification process, why it matters, what the DIY roadmap, how this whole idea will develop, we'll also try to make this online platform to accommodate the possibility to act as a resource center, both for the businesses as well as disadvantaged groups. So we'll try to, with the content that we'll share on this platform, we'll actually try to cover the needs of the both groups when it comes to finding a joint position for both of them to understand this whole DIY certification idea. And also too, we were thinking about it more regionally, so we'll try to accommodate the maximum amount of the information we can get, not only which are specific for the Bosnia and Herzegovina, but also to cover the regional perspective when it comes to other countries, or if they are willing to actually also participate in the content creation on this online platform and can use it for the same purpose as well. So we'll try to make it locally inclusive, but also the regionally inclusive. And the another step would actually be the promotion of DIY standards in business and introduction of DIY models. So this will basically be the biggest and the step we are actually looking forward to the most, to show the importance of diversity and inclusion perspective in the human rights management, and that by earning a DIY certificate, they can actually significantly improve business results and quality of their work. So this is something that we'll do together with the market makers. So basically the idea is to have, we had a expert who has set an outline of the certification in terms of what needs to be covered when it comes to internal procedures, the fields of work, the other fields that are relevant for the work of the business when it comes to recruitment process, retention process, accommodation, onboarding process, what actually needs to be taken into consideration when actually introducing this DIY, the diversity and inclusion steps into their business. So as an end result, by the end of let's say sometime January or February 2021, we hope to have 5 companies that will go through this pilot process together with us and actually gain a certificate, and we'll hope for the overspill process when we'll have other companies actually on board to go through this certification process together with us. So basically the main goal will be by the end of the February to have these 5 companies to actually see, to test this whole idea in the field. So that basically is something that we will be working on for the next couple of months with our internal stuff, but also with the other companies also that will also be included in this DIY network. That's how we call it here. So I'm not sure if Emina has anything to add, maybe.
Well, basically, I think in January of 2021, we should definitely check in again and tell you more about these hopefully lovely 5 companies that will have the certificate and that we can actually vouch for, that have really good HR policies related to not only lesbians, gays, bisexual, transgender, and intersex people, but also other minorities such as Roma people or people with disabilities.
Ladies, I'm very impressed with this conversation, and actually it's almost as a kind of surprise that in Bosnia and Herzegovina, so country which is possibly not known to every single individual in our East Meets West network, that you are actually really pushing further. What I also liked now what you were mentioning about all of these certification plans, that you also want to go beyond one domain of diversity. So you also want to actually include all of the other domains. This is also what I find amazing. But tell me maybe a little bit more about this pilot phase, as you said. So you want to have 5 companies undergoing the pilot certification. So how far are you? Do you already have all of them 5 waiting in line, or are you still kind of open for either suggestions or open for companies to contact you?
Here is the thing. We have actually, by using our personal channels and by conversating with people we do know from different companies, have actually discussed this whole idea if they would actually like to be engaged and willing to engage at the company level in this pilot phase. So we are extremely lucky to share with you the information that we do have couple of companies waiting in line to actually go jointly together with us through this whole certification process. But I'm a couple of them, but still not 5. So we would actually be extremely happy if you have any suggestions on who should we talk to, and explain this whole idea and see if they actually would be on board and willing to go through this process with us. But we do have a couple of them, 2 to 3 for certain, and we have to see about the another 2.
Mm-hmm. But I will do also a little bit of bragging. I will not name names of the companies, but I'm extremely happy that Aida has taken the lead on this, and that she actually managed to establish contact with one of the, I think, fastest growing IT companies, local companies here in Bosnia and Herzegovina. I think when we kind of engaged into this work and this story, I kind of expected it would be the international companies that have here the local presence, but I think it's something to be celebrated and recognized, that if we, out of these 5 companies, if we manage to have at least one, and I'm thinking it will be more local companies that are willing to undergo this process and to be very open about this process to the public and to their business network, to their employees, to the supply chain, and so on. So I think we're actually super excited about having a local company on board.
This sounds actually really, really very good, and congratulations so far. I hope that also once this podcast will be published, there might be 1 or 2, maybe even more companies who would like to be part of it, who would like to join you as well. Is there any maybe industry type, or is there any, I don't know, size of company you are looking at, or you would, let's say, prefer to be part of this pilot?
Actually, I don't think we have specified. We would be happy if we have companies that have, I don't know, under 20 employees, or those that even have around 100 and more. I think we're going to be very flexible in terms of our approach to of course, the size and to the complexity of different companies and different industries as well. So I think we're very smart about this, and we're as this is a very innovative project, and this is, I think, the first one, not here only in Bosnia and Herzegovina, but I think in the region, that will bring LGBTI people on board, but also so much wider kind of group of people belonging to marginalized social groups. I think we will take different companies because, as Aida said, we wanted to turn around the story where we have situations where the companies are the ones who are being, who are discriminating towards LGBTI people and other marginalized groups. So instead of us being just on the receiving end and saying, okay, let's, see how we can go through the courts and deal with this, we said, okay, let's turn around the situation and let's see, because we know there must be good people in companies who are willing to approach professionally to their HR policies, and generally who want their businesses to thrive. Mm-hmm. So we said, let's find these people and let's find these businesses. It doesn't matter what industry they belong to or how many employees they have. If they're willing, and if they're willing to go public with this, it sends a strong message in favor of the equality of, again, not only LGBTI people, but other marginalized groups and minorities in our society. So any and all companies are more than welcome to join.
I understand.
Yeah, we would actually love to have a diverse sample when it comes to type of companies as well, because we do know that the LGBTI community itself is highly diverse in terms of the topics and the education and whatever other backgrounds they are defined by. Actually, they do work in different industries in different size of the company. So basically, the more diverse, the better the sample is, the companies are.
I understand. Maybe not everybody, as I said, knows specific, or maybe knows some insight from Bosnia and Herzegovina. So I would like to actually use this opportunity also to ask, so what is the current LGBTI situation in Bosnia, and maybe also in the context of, is this about the capital, where maybe in the capital, so Sarajevo, you would be more progressing, and maybe in the other parts of the country it's less? So give us some maybe insights, or what has been happening in the recent past.
Well, for those who are listening and who don't know much about the history or geography of our home country, we're a small country. We have around a little bit over the 3 million people, and yes, we are based inside of the capital, and most of our work is focused here. But also, most of the companies that that we want to work with, or who are at least inclined to actually think about joining us in this diversity and inclusion effort, are based here. So it's a start. We have to start somewhere, and to be honest and truthful, it's much easier to start here. But that doesn't mean that if we get so many interested companies that we're going to say no to somebody who comes from a different part of Bosnia and Herzegovina. So the idea is to jumpstart this. And again, as I said, by the end of January 2021 or February, we will have a little bit of a taste of what the companies are feeling about this and how much of interest there is. So again, not to limit ourselves, because our other parts of our work that are focused on strengthening LGBT activism in different parts of Bosnia and Herzegovina is something that kind of can help us to bring this discussion over inclusion in business area, inclusion of LGBTI people in the business area. It's just going to help us. So this is just a start. And in terms of generally the situation for LGBTI people here in Bosnia and Herzegovina, I think we can now safely say that we have come a long way. Since 2009 and early aughts, we have anti-discrimination protection that also covers the workplace. We have hate crime legislation. We had 2 prides. The last one that happened was in a little bit of a different format because of the current public health situation, but we're kind of really moving ahead, and then the institutions are responding, working differently on including LGBTI measures into public policies, and recognizing there's a need to actually proactively start working on LGBTI human rights and the needs of LGBTI people as citizens of this country. So a lot of good things are happening, and recently we also finally had this initial institutional response to recognizing same-sex partnership. So I know that if you look at the situation in Russia, in Poland, in Hungary right now, it doesn't look good. There's a lot of backlash against LGBTI people in different parts of Europe and European Union. But as tough as history the Bosnian had, I think, at least when it comes to LGBTI rights and the position, we're moving slowly, but we're moving ahead, and these are good news, and at least some positive news in these definitely kind of dark times for LGBTI people across Europe. And here's a hope that we don't get to be on the receiving end, hopefully, of different right-wing conservative politics. We're not yet, so the country is kind of moving ahead, and we're trying to jump on this train and take this moment to start the discussions in every kind of pore of social life, and in politics and in business and sports, even a little bit of a religion, to start discussing what it locally means to really respect people that are different, respect people of different sexual identities, to respect and not just respect, but also to accept. And I think this is our job that we're actually pretty good at. And again, please do check in with us at February next year, and then we can give some more good and positive news, hopefully.
We will definitely come back to you, ladies. But I think I know the answer, or kind of the reason why Bosnia and Herzegovina is progressing constantly. Because it is you at the SOC, the Sarajevo Open Centre, who are actually constantly and consistently behind the agenda. So here from our side, from East Meets West, a great congratulations. And as I said, we are looking forward to hearing from you early next year, how the results with these 5 pilot companies will go. But before I say goodbye to you, tell me one more thing. So how did you spend your summer? Because for sure you had lots of things at the beginning of this year on the plate, but you also needed to relax a little bit.
We were actually
working.
Yeah. This is something that nobody wants to hear, but we were actually working because we have faced several delays when it comes to implementation of certain activities due to the whole COVID situation. But we have managed somehow to fulfill all of our duties when it comes to our work here. But we have mostly been working during this whole summer situation.
Yeah, and for me, I was also working the whole time, but I did actually take this time and to travel more around Bosnia and Herzegovina, and especially to the Herzegovina part, which has these wonderful wineries, wonderful rivers, and actually, I think we're helping our local tourism to bloom. Of course, this was initiated by the fact that it's not easy to travel anywhere outside of Bosnia and Herzegovina, but yeah, it's a little bit of rest and a lot of good work.
Mm-hmm.
Happy to hear. So now you are actually fully ready for your late this year endeavors with these 5 companies. Ladies, thank you very much for joining us today. I'm happy that we could record this spotlight, and soon this will be heard by many people around. And I wish you lots of luck to really find all 5 of the companies. And we are very much looking forward hearing from you early next year.
Thank you, Pavel, and the whole East Meets West team for actually providing us with a platform to actually share with you this information regarding this activity that we will be undertaking for the next several months when it comes to diversity and inclusion. This is something that we are extremely proud of, and we are hoping that we will be able to actually share some good news with you by the end of this year, beginning the next year.
So I'm Matthias Kuske. I'm working for Deutsche Aidshilfe. Deutsche Aidshilfe is the national HIV support organization here in Germany. And our one focus is HIV and hepatitis and STI prevention for the groups most affected by HIV, like gay men, sex workers, drug users, or migrants. But we're also the self-representation organization for people living with HIV and AIDS. I'm project manager there. That's the word I was looking for. I'm too fast sometimes. I'm project manager there as well, nationally as internationally, but I'm also entrepreneur and LGBTQI and HIV activist. What I want to present to you today, or give you an impression of, is a project that Deutsche Aidshilfe developed together with IBM and SAP as the main partners. And it's called #WorkingPositively. The focus of East Meets West is LGBTI inclusion, which is a very important topic, but we want to broaden the perspective a little bit. Many of us also have chronically illnesses like HIV, and we are colleagues or employers. And we now ask you for the inclusion of people living with HIV in your company or in your organization, because the topic of working positively is to support creating a discrimination-free treatment of people living with HIV in the workplace. And I prepared a short presentation which might give you an insight into the project. So I will share my screen. I'm not allowed to do, so you have to allow me screen sharing. And then I can start the presentation. So, working positively. I want to start with a short video and give the floor and the stage to the companies.
Ernsthaft.
Worüber wir jetzt reden, ist völlig unerheblich.
Egal.
Wenn jemand HIV-positiv ist, spielt das bei der Arbeit überhaupt keine Rolle.
Ob Managerin,
Erzieher.
Ärztin,
Köchin.
HIV ist bei der Arbeit wirklich kein Problem.
Mit HIV kann man heute leben und arbeiten wie alle anderen Menschen. Eine Übertragung im Arbeitsalltag ist völlig ausgeschlossen.
Bei medikamentöser Behandlung ist HIV überhaupt nicht mehr übertragbar.
Und HIV-positive Menschen sind genauso leistungsfähig wie alle anderen.
Wir haben eine Vision.
Eine Arbeitswelt ohne Diskriminierung.
Niemand soll schlechter behandelt werden als andere.
Respekt ist gut und Respekt ist gut für alle.
Wir treten ein für Respekt und Selbstverständlichkeit.
Von ganzem Herzen.
Machst du mit?
German. So HIV in the workplace today, as the colleagues already said, people living with HIV are colleagues like everybody else, and they can work like everybody else. There are no limits in the working place. But the fear of disadvantages in the workplace, stigma and discrimination, are still the biggest obstacle people living with HIV face in their everyday life. So showing respect and support for people living with HIV not only helps them, but also helps creating an open and tolerant working environment. And that's something we know very well from LGBTI inclusiveness. So the topic is very known to us, but now the focus is not on LGBTI only, but also on people living with HIV. So we ask you to set a signal and take action. Therefore, we designed a declaration of commitment. We started in Germany already in June 2019. And our main partners are IBM and SAP, as I already said. But the declaration in Germany was already signed by more than 70 companies and organizations. And I want to give you a short overview of some of them. So companies like IBM and SAP, of course, but also Accenture or Daimler or Deutsche Bahn, Deutsche Bank, PwC or Bosch, or city councils like the city of Munich, the city of Dortmund or Mannheim, but also the German Red Cross, theaters, labor unions, orchestras, political parties, hospitals, agencies, NGOs, airports, or media companies. So it's a big variety of companies and organizations that's already signed in Germany. And it's more than just a lip service. We ask you for concrete internal intervention and external signals, and I will tell a little bit more about it afterwards. Now we're starting with a global rollout. Under the lead of IBM and SAP, the project is now extended globally. And the global rollout, which is very new now, starts now on December the 1st. And the first countries will be USA and Canada and Austria. So Raiffeisenbank, Pavel, could be one of the first partners there. In Austria, maybe. We can discuss this later. And what is important for DACH, which is Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, and the EMEA region, the project is always conducted in cooperation with the National Self-Representation Organization of people living with HIV and AIDS. So they should be on board. This is quite important. And in all other regions in the world, the Human Rights Campaign is the global partner for the project. The project itself is adaptable to the needs in each country. So if you have problems with some of the topics of the declaration, you can discuss to change it, but the core idea must be guaranteed. And to know what it's about, I included a little bit of the text of the declaration of the German version. So this might give you some impression of what the declaration is about and the project. So the first part is setting the right example. If you sign the declaration, you will support active, respectful cooperation in the workplace. We will stand up for people with HIV and other chronic illnesses. We absolutely reject discrimination. In our company, we make clear that employees with HIV are welcome and can be open about the fact if they choose to be. In cases of discrimination, our employees may turn to complaint centers or trained advisors. So there's really internal structures that have to be there. We will ensure that our personnel managers and employee representative organizations acquire up-to-date knowledge about living with HIV. We will not demand an HIV test, either on recruitment or during company medical examinations, and will not ask whether an employee has HIV. We will publicly declare that we have addressed the issue of HIV and will publish this declaration and other material on dealing with HIV, including within our company. The second part is we are committed to active diversity and inclusion. So our company signs the declaration in full acknowledgement of our responsibility to the dignity of all employees. Marginalization makes people sick, and respect contributes to quality of life in the productive working environment. So things we also know very well from the LGBTIQ inclusiveness. So if you want to participate, there are 5 easy steps for the implementation. The first one is inform yourself, decide, and sign. So just inform yourself about the declaration now as you do here. So you're listening to it, so you get informed. So inform yourself more. Decide if you want to participate, which would be great, and then sign it. And in case you need any help or have any questions, we're of course always happy to support you. Then find allies and inform internally. It's so important to have your staff on board. So get your employees on board, offer information material, organize meetings, inform people of what it means to live and work with HIV today, and that people living with HIV are colleagues like everyone else. Then promote it to the outside world. So, for example, on your website, in social media and image flyers, it's always also important to promote it and to show openly that you will support people living with HIV in your company or in your organization, and show that they are welcome to the outside world. And of course, keep the pot boiling. Also something we know very well from other topics like LGBTI inclusive, you always have to remember people. You have to put the topic regularly on the agenda at appropriate occasions. And then 5, inspire others. Inspiration is always good. So spread the knowledge and motivate others to sign the declaration so that we have more and more companies and organizations that support people living with HIV as their working staff. So to give you a better understanding of why it's so important also for the colleagues working in the organizations, but also for the organizations themselves, we have another video which gives you more insights to the project and why it's so important, which I would like to start now and share with you.
Mein Name ist Jörg Beisel. Ich arbeite bei SAP und bin deutschlandweit für die Außenanlagen zuständig und setze mich für einen diskriminierungsfreien und respektvollen Umgang mit HIV-positiven Menschen ein. Ich bin seit Frühjahr 2015 HIV-positiv. Für mich war das lange Zeit ein Thema, dass ich gedacht habe, na, sag's auf der Arbeit nicht, weil es hat erstmal für deine Arbeit und das, was du tust und dein Umfeld, ist es nicht von Interesse. Aber man hat das Gefühl, einfach so ein Stück weit von sich selbst sich zu entfernen und nicht authentisch zu sein. Und da hatte ich für mich den Entschluss gefasst, ich möchte das denen sagen.
Das Thema HIV in der Arbeitswelt war mir ehrlich gesagt nicht bewusst bis zu dem Zeitpunkt. Also hat mich eiskalt erwischt. Es war im Grunde genommen so, dass zu meinem großen Erschrecken mein Wissen zum Thema HIV irgendwo Ende der 90er Jahre aufgehört hat.
Als ich meinem Chef das gesagt habe und Steven ist aufgesprungen, hat mich gedrückt und hat gesagt, er findet das total großartig, dass ich sowas Privates und Persönliches mit ihm teile.
HIV braucht im Arbeitsalltag überhaupt keine Rolle zu spielen. Menschen mit HIV können in jedem Job arbeiten, wie alle anderen Menschen auch. Und Probleme entstehen ausschließlich durch Unwissenheit oder durch völlig unnötige Ängste, zum Beispiel vor einer Übertragung im Arbeitsalltag, die aber vollkommen unmöglich ist. Deswegen ist die wichtigste Botschaft, entspannt euch.
Ich glaube, bei SAP, wir stehen also für Respekt für jeden. Also wir haben keine Angst vor Vielfalt. Vielfalt ist für uns wichtig. Vielfalt bedeutet Innovation und Vielfalt bedeutet, anders zu sein in mehreren Facetten. Und HIV ist eine der Facetten.
Ich bin Christoph, HIV-positiv, bin vom Beruf Diplompädagoge. Also anfänglich war ich sehr vorsichtig. Ich lebe sonst überall sehr offen, HIV-positiv, aber neuer Arbeitgeber, man weiß nicht, wie der tickt. Habe das dann schön punktuell, unterschwellig einfließen lassen. Ich mache bei der Welt-AIDS-Tags-Kampagne mit, ich nehme Medikamente und habe dann gemerkt, okay, mein Arbeitgeber scheint kein Problem zu haben. Bis ich dann wirklich zu dem Punkt gekommen bin, das wirklich bewusst zu sagen, ich bin HIV-positiv. Und das war halt auch die Befürchtung, die ich hatte, negative Befürchtung. Ich arbeite mit Jugendlichen, mit Ämtern zusammen, dass ich eben einen Nachteil davon bekomme, hat sich überhaupt nicht bewahrheitet, sondern eher das Gegenteil, ich werde unterstützt. Am Arbeitsplatz offen, positiv leben zu können, bedeutet für mich auf der einen Seite Freiheit, authentisch sein zu können, eben ich darf hier sein, wie ich bin und natürlich psychisch und auch physisch eine große Entlastung. Und die Arbeit wird einfach qualitativ besser, ich kann mich besser darauf konzentrieren, als wenn ich in einem angstbesetzten Raum hier sitzen würde.
Die Rückendeckung des Unternehmens bedeutet für mich letzten Endes ein proaktives Bekenntnis dazu, dass man sagt, du bist genauso, wie du bist, richtig, du bist Teil unserer Vielfalt und Vielfalt ist das, was unsere Unternehmenskultur ausmacht.
Give you a short insight on what we are planning with the project and why it's so important as well for the people living with HIV as the companies. And I hope it could motivate you and help you to be part of this project. And if you're interested in participating or if you want to know more, you can contact Axel Wedler at IBM for Europe and the global project. And for Germany or as an NGO, you can also contact Silke Eggers at Deutsche Aidshilfe. And the addresses are here. And the good on recordings is that you always can have a look at it if you're interested in, to look at it. So I say thank you for being part here, and I'm giving back to Pavel.
Very well done, Matthias. And I think we need to reveal something. We need to reveal that we know each other, wow, maybe 7 years or something like this. I think you've been the member of East Meets West Network since the early stages. I think that time we were still in Prague. We brought you also on the stage, I think 2015. And still you keep us amazed, we are still amazed on what energy you give in your projects. And I really appreciate this.
Yeah.
There was one thing.
But that's the same with you. You're giving so much energy to East Midwest. That's always nice to see. So I've looked to the conference as well as the first series video. So it was amazing to see what's happening and what energy there is happening now throughout Europe, which is so important. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you. There was one thing which came to my mind. You mentioned so actually how to start getting involved is to get educated, is to get information.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any tips where actually, besides actually looking at this podcast, where else people can get more information and get more educated and maybe more aware of what actually it is to be HIV and to live the life as an HIV person?
So each country in Europe as well as in the world has organizations of people living with HIV, so self-representative organizations or organizations that are working in the field of HIV, and they always have good insight and good quality. You can also contact us. So I gave you the contact detail of Silke Eggers, but also my contact details were on the last page. And as I worked a lot in HIV prevention as well as HIV in the field of HIV in many different ways in Europe, I can give you a lot of details of persons, contact details of organizations. So just contact us if you don't have any idea of who you can contact in your country. But otherwise, just have a look on the NGO field because there are a lot of good organizations everywhere.
Very cool, very cool. I was wondering also, so what happens if we do not give space to people and actually help them to be who they are and to come to the office who they are? So what can be actually the consequences?
Mm-hmm. The thing is that if you hide something the whole time in your life, you're not open with other things and you can't concentrate on your work correctly. You can't talk to your colleagues about your problems. So we know this from LGBTI very well. You can't talk about your husband or your wife or your partners and so on. And if you have a chronic illness like HIV, and if you're ill and you can't tell people why you're ill, if you have to go to rehab and you can't tell people why you have to go to rehab, why sometimes you may feel not so well on a day and you can't talk about it, you always have to hide something. And this is very bad for your quality of life as well as of your quality of work. And it's not inclusion and it's not diversity, because we want to give people the space they need, show who they are with everything and everything they cover. So to have a good quality in the work, a good environment in your company or organization, it's so important that people can talk openly about what they're affected with, what is in their minds, what is very important to them. And having a chronic illness is something that is also very important for you and is a big part of your life, be it HIV, be it other chronic illnesses, and it doesn't matter. So I also have psoriasis, and I've seen this with so many people having psoriasis who can't show their skin at all. They hide all their life because the stigma and discrimination is so high, and their self-discrimination also, that they even don't show to other people with psoriasis their skin. And you can imagine what that means if you run around in summer with 35 degrees in long clothes because you have a fear because of stigmatization or self-stigmatization to show yourself what this means to the quality of your work and your life in all. So maybe this makes it a bit clearer besides of HIV, that it's not only one illnesses, but it's affecting every one of us.
You live in Germany, but you run actually international projects. So you know the situation rather well, how it differs also across Europe. Or are there differences? Are there not differences? How about maybe further than like looking at Eastern Europe? Is this easier, or is this actually not a topic at all? Or it cannot be at all discussed? So how do you see it from your perspective?
It's very different in every country. I worked a lot in Eastern Europe in the last years, and the first idea was that they have a lot more problems than we do, but they don't have. They have other problems. The thing is that their work often is quite the same from the quality and from what they are doing as it is in the West. But of course, they fear much more stigma, much more discrimination in their countries, much more missing knowledge. And missing knowledge is one of the main drivers of stigma and discrimination. So it's so important that people get educated, especially in Eastern Europe. But also they have now I'm missing the word. The governments, of course, very easy word, but it's also always the easy words that are missing. But they also often have governments that are not that open and understandable as they are in the West. And of course, the financial resources are much less than they are in the West. Many of the governments don't pay so much or at all for HIV prevention in many countries. So they need other resources, which is much more complicated to do and needs much more time and resources to do so. So it's not that different from the work, but the surrounding, the cultural, the environmental surrounding is much more complicated, of course.
Coming back to this business environment, what I was wondering, okay, so in Germany since 2019, you made a huge progress. So since June 19 until now, you have 70 companies, organizations, you said even ministries who signed the declaration, which is a great work and it must be definitely appreciated. But I was wondering, is there any best practice sharing? So imagine that there is a new company who would like to sign and is in the early stage. So how can I, as a company representative, be part of a certain maybe group or learn easier way and maybe to even avoid some pitfalls the others already did?
So the main thing is to network and to share your thoughts, maybe also your obstacles and your problems you have with it, with the people who are in the project. And Axel Weter from IBM is a great colleague. He's very open. He's openly living with HIV for so many years, and he's so engaged. And he's someone who can talk very openly to, and he gives so much energy to it. And he will also present the project on many occasions in the LGBTI congresses and other things. So network, share with others, and be part of it. And don't be don't do it for yourself, but just do it together with other companies and network with the others who are in the project. I guess that's the most important thing I could say.
And maybe I have one final question, because at the end it goes to the individuals. So it goes to each and every of us. How could each and every of us contribute? Is there anything maybe we should think of in connection to the World AIDS Tag or Day, which comes later in this year? So any kind of tip how each and every individual can contribute to make a difference?
So if you are interested in this project, and I hope you are, go to your bosses, go to your company's organization, tell them, here is a project that helps us supporting people with HIV. And if your company already works in the field of inclusiveness of LGBTI, it's easy maybe for them to understand why this project is also so important, because it's more or less the same topic, it's just with a chronic illness. And it's so important to have other topics than just women, elderly people, but also to include people with chronic illnesses, and HIV is one of them. So go to your networks and support it. If you are on conferences, just talk about it. So share the idea. I guess that's the main topic. That would be great. And if you need anything for this, just contact us and we will support you with it.
Matthias, as always, thank you very, very much. Not only for giving us insights to the work what you do, talking about this important topic, but for the energy you actually give not only to your project, but to the audience. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Pavel, and have a great day and see you soon, hopefully.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Pavel, for a great opportunity to join and to present you how Lithuanian business community united in order to ensure human rights and equal opportunities in the working places. And I am happy to introduce you Lithuanian Diversity Charter. And my name is Lgbti, and I work in organization SOPA, which is Employment Agency for those who are in a distance to the labor market. And I'm also one of the initiators of the charter in Lithuania, together with another organization, Diversity Development Group, which is a research organization working on migration, human rights researchers. So a few years ago, we decided that in Lithuania we need a Lithuanian Diversity Charter. Diversity Charter is the initiative of European Commission, started a long time ago, 10 years ago. The first charter was signed in France, and we were 22nd country which signed the charter in 2018. And for illustration, what we have done, I would like to share the slides with you. So me and Karolis from DDG, we wanted that the business community organization and other organizations, employers would talk more about diversity at work and human rights at work. And we introduced the idea of the Diversity Charter. We went from company to company to saying that we would like to have the charter in Lithuania, and actually we got support from many of business organizations, and some of them they said that they want not only to be signatories of the charter of the document, but also they wanted to support more actively. So we got 7 ambassadors who really were proactive in promoting Lithuanian Diversity Charter, and some of them were big international organizations such as Barclays, Telia, Swedbank, Western Union, Remi, a supermarket chain, but also a smaller organization like family restaurant chain Jurgis and Drakonas, and Lithuanian Airports. So they were our ambassadors, and in total 25 signatories, big and small organizations joined in the launch event of Lithuanian Diversity Charter in October 2018. And it was a big event. It was the conference and press conference and the conference, and quite publicly. Okay, it was okay. I will stop with the big event. I forgot the words. And now we have 40 members of the charter, not only business organizations, but also NGOs joined, and some state institutions, Vilnius City Municipality, for instance, Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Lithuania, news portal, one of the biggest news portals, 15 Minutes. So they and other organizations joined. So now we have more than 40 organizations. What is the charter about? We stand for non-selective approach towards human rights, and we encourage companies to promote diversity in different ways, in a different levels. So which one they want to choose, starting from policies of not discrimination, of prevention of discrimination at work, to so-called positive discrimination, when the companies invite people from different groups to join the company, to some structural or organizational changes in order to create specialized jobs, inclusive jobs for those who have lower capacities. So we see also charter not only as document when you sign and forget. We see diversity charter also as a platform to exchange the knowledge, exchange ideas about how to implement diversity policies at work, at the workplaces, what kind of challenges organizations face, what kind of opportunities they have. It's a platform of exchanging ideas about that. And those 2 years, we organized a number of meetings to talk about different topics like gender pay gap, about inclusion of people with disabilities, about cultural diversity at work and how to manage it, about age management. So on various topics, and a year ago we had a huge conference of 150 participants, including also speakers from abroad, international experts. So and Pavel was invited to that conference as well. So it was really good platform and good. We wanted to make a tradition to have such a kind of conference each year. But this year, COVID changed our plans, so we don't have a conference this year. So, wow. Diversity, sorry, once again. Diversity Charter is not only about talking, but companies started to take very concrete measures, very concrete steps to support diversity and human rights. And one of the example was last year in Baltic Pride in Vilnius. For the first time in history, business companies very openly supported the Pride, and it was never done before. And they marched in Equality March with their buses, with the buses and the names of the companies written on the buses, and really participated actively in the march. And it was really something very fresh, new in our country. So. And also they supported, Swedbank supported the Human Rights Conference as well during the Pride. Also we had from our members of the Charter many other initiatives, very concrete ones like about age management, and this is a photo from social experiment Age Does Not Matter by Remy. They started this experiment, but also spread the knowledge about how to accept people with who have difficulties because of their age, and it's a real problem in Lithuania that people under 50s they do not work and they are not accepted in the labor market. So this is also the topic companies started to discuss and also actively to look for solutions to that. Also, some of the members of the Charter, they created specialized workplaces for people with quite severe disabilities, such as autism, Down syndrome, and complex disabilities. And these people are working now in open labor market, which is also quite not very usual in our country. This year we also had quite many plans to do. I mentioned conference, but also diversity month in May. It had to be a number of events on the diversity May, but of course COVID-19 stopped our initiatives, or some they went online, like communication like a discussion online run by Rimi. They were organizing several series of discussions which were broadcasted live by our partner on 15 minutes. So they talked on various diversity topics, including LGBT plus and cultural diversity and age in different topics. And Telia Group made the virtual Pride this year, and I also was watching it. Of course, it was not okay. I don't know. It was not. It couldn't create such a vibe as in real Pride, but still, it was very interesting to hear presentations and yeah. I'm sorry. What is also important that during the COVID, companies had to take measures and to think more about security, not only physical security, which is obvious, but also mental security of employees, and really they had to think about how to provide support for people who had to stay at work and work from home, and for those who feel frustrated because of uncertainty and of the situation. So some of our members started to make webinars or training for people, for their employees, and mental health issues became important. So this is more or less the journey we had till in our 2 years, and I hope we will continue. So thank you very much.
Excellent, Jurka. I just wanted, if you keep sharing the screen maybe, I want to first of all congratulate not only you, but to the whole team of the Lithuanian Diversity Charter, because to make such a progress from 0 to, did you say 40 companies at the moment who are actually members and who signed the Diversity Charter. You are maybe the youngest, but you are really super dynamic, and this really needs appreciation. And this is also one of the reasons why we selected the Lithuanian Diversity Charter to be part of this second podcast, or the second Spotlight series. Do you perhaps have any tips when it comes to, I don't know, expanding the network and scouting for new signees of the Diversity Charter, something what maybe if the others can learn from you?
But probably what was successful for us is to go to international. It's not a rule, but international companies are more open to the topic of diversity and inclusion, and it's something they already know about, and they just want to support. When the local national companies, we have exceptions, of course, but most of them, they don't, at the moment, they really are concerned on other issues, but not on this topic. So you have to discuss and introduce more for national, local companies, so to say. That, but it's not a tip. It's maybe it's our reality, maybe Lithuanian. Also, what we had, as I told you, we were. We are standing for non-selective approach towards human rights, and we encountered situations when the companies think, well, okay, we have migrants, but we are not supporting other groups. Some, so they want to support just 1 or 2 groups, but not all. diversity, and so we didn't accept that. We didn't continue to cooperate with the companies who does not want they see human rights as a whole picture for all when they exclude some groups. So it's not, it's not very.
But I think maybe one of also the secret tips is the hard work and the dedication, because obviously you spend lots of time on the topic, talking to companies. How many people are you in the Diversity Charter, in the core organization?
Actually, the charter now is not a formal organization, so we don't have any in the as an ordinary organization. So Carolis and Bia, we are three main people, but three of us we work in other organizations. So it's in a way it's a side activity for now. But we want to change that, and we want to establish a normal association. So it will change. But yes, you are right. What is success is when you go and speak face to face and talk with people, and look for those who are open and who accept your ideas. So yeah, we had quite a lot of talking.
So it seems that there is a second thing which we have in common with East Meets West, that we are also only two people who are running the organization, and we believe that we also make somehow a good progress. So sometimes actually less is more when it comes to then the output. One more question I have. Obviously, you do try to be as much in touch with the companies as possible. Also, you mentioned that it's not only about signing a piece of paper, it's also the work together. So maybe can you once again highlight, I know you have done a great conference in 2019. I was personally part of it. I also was part of the Vilnius Pride, which again, maybe it is not the biggest pride in the world, but for me it was one of the most touching pride, because it was really very, very personal. But when you look maybe now on the activities which you do with the businesses, can you maybe tell us a bit of what are the different actions and different activities you do with them?
So yes, signing is not enough, so to say. It's a start or the first step to declare openly, publicly that the company is promoting equal opportunities, but it's important what is next. And companies are in very different levels. Some of them, they do have diversity policies, and large international corporations, they already have quite a lot of measures to implement, but some, they are just at the position zero. Just the willingness of the CEO or HR manager is, there is only intention, but not so many done. So it's important to make them to come together and to share the knowledge and the knowledge, experience, and ideas where to start and how to do. And one of our also what we wanted to do this year was diversity training for HR managers. What are the main points you have to take care about, starting from recruitment on the whole process of work with the employees, from recruitment till the person is leaving the company. So yes, there are so many topics, and organizations are on very different levels. So it's good to make the platform for them to meet and to talk with each other, and this is, I think, added value of the charter. We are not, really creating the content. The content is very often in the companies, but what is important to make them to come together and to share expertise. Yeah.
You mentioned, and this is also very impressive, that the city of Vilnius is one of the signees, but also some ministries. How important was it to have also this institutions part of the group?
One ministry signed, so Ministry of Foreign Affairs for now. Yes, it was good for publicity. And it was on the news that Vilnius City Municipality and the ministry signed the charter. Also, we have to create and implement a business and human rights plan on the national level. So it's also good for them to join the charter, but also for us to make impact on that plan. So not so many actually activities already has been done with them, but I think it takes time sometimes. They participated in small initiatives I didn't mention. We also had the initiative of Duo Day, which is a job shadowing initiative for people with disabilities to go for one day to companies to understand better what people are, what kind of jobs they are doing, and to try maybe. Or to get to know about environment of different companies and to know more about the job market, but also for the people of the companies, it's good to learn about people with disabilities. So it's an initiative also coming from Europe, and we started it a few years ago as well. So a lot of members of Diversity Charter joined this Duo Day initiative, including ministry and the Vilnius City Municipality.
Very good. I have one more unplanned question, and the question is obviously you need to be proud because the work is great what you have done last 2 years. So which means that also you need to celebrate. So what is the proper Lithuanian type or way of celebrating?
I don't think we have one way of celebrating. It depends, and yeah. So I don't think there is one Lithuanian way of celebration. It depends on the person and on people. So actually, we don't celebrate a lot. At least in the charter, really, we don't celebrate a lot. We work, and then, yeah, it's not very good. Not to take time to be proud and just to celebrate what we succeeded. So I cannot answer this question. How people celebrate? They go to bar, maybe, yes.
But still, I hope that maybe later this summer you will find a bit of time to celebrate as the team of the Lithuanian Diversity Charter. And Jurga, once again, thank you for joining us today on the Spotlight series. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.